Councillor Modolo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, from my discussions with each of you, what has been made clear is that many of us have found this particular vote to be a difficult one. What hasn't been made clear, however, to the public is precisely why this vote is a difficult one. It is overly simplistic to reduce this matter to a case of, do we want a funeral parlour here or do we not? And despite how logical it seems to have that be the question, that is not the question for us to decide here tonight. Because tonight, we are effectively not elected members of the community wielding the sword of our fellow ratepayers. Instead, we are decision makers in a planning sense, making decisions on behalf of the minister in state government. That is the law that guides us right now. Yes, we're sitting in our exact same seats, we've got our exact same nameplates in front of our screens, we look, sound, act the same, but we're not the same. We're deciding here tonight under delegated authority from the planning legislation, not the local government legislation. And accordingly, we must view this issue with a planning law lens. The reason this decision is so difficult is firstly and foremost that it sits uncomfortably with the council that we have to set aside the community's wishes to the extent that we do. Secondly, there are very arguable cases with a strict planning law lens applied as to why this development should be approved or rejected. It's technical, it's complicated, and that doesn't make this decision any easier. And before I provide you with my thinking with that lens applied, I do wish to make a few preliminary comments about the way that this issue has played out since it came to the council's attention. I acknowledge there are real feelings involved here and a lot is at stake for both sides. When you have competing interests, only often one can prevail, which is a nice way of saying sometimes there's a clear winner and a clear loser. Of course, where possible, we should absolutely try to compromise, but it's clear on this issue that compromise is not an option. The funeral parlour either goes there or it doesn't. The fact that this decision is so binary, in my view, also adds to its difficulty. I've spent a lot of time reviewing the facts and the applicable laws in this case with a view to reaching the right conclusion. As part of these preliminary notes, I also wish to address some of the commentary regarding the applicant. And while I understand that this issue invokes passion among the community, I don't wish for the applicant to see those views as being wholly representative of council. To Mr. Urseg and the Seasons Funeral team, I want to say firstly, thank you. Thank you for considering the City of Kalamunda as the next place that you wish to grow your business. As a business owner myself, albeit nowhere near admittedly the size of yours, I understand the commercial realities of operating in our capitalist society. And I fully understand that while we say we're a free market economy, that government regulation often, too often, stands in the way of that tenet. I also understand why you chose this location for your business expansion. I accept that you have worked very hard to get to this point. I accept you've done everything by the book insofar as your development application is concerned. As Mr. Urseg hoped in his deputation, I acknowledge that Seasons has been open and transparent. As a decent corporate citizen, I would be honoured to have you in our city doing business, but just not in this location. And my own view at this point in time My own view at this point in time is that there are genuine planning grounds on which to refuse the application before us tonight. While I acknowledge the recommendation of the city staff, I respectfully disagree with their findings with regards to this application. So let's break down that thinking. The City of Kalamunda has an activities centre strategy. For convenience, let's just call it the activity strategy. Now, the activity strategy outlines a couple of bits of important information. Firstly, it identifies that piece of land which Seasons Funeral seeks to develop as being part of the Wattle Grove North Neighbourhood Activity Centre. Secondly, the activity strategy identifies that Wattle Grove has the second highest forecast population growth across the entire city of Kalamunda. Wattle Grove is expected to really grow. Accordingly, we can expect there will be a higher demand for commercial land, and the activity strategy concurs. For a moment, let's go back to the year 2020. At the same time the word corona began meaning something other than a cold Mexican beer, an amendment was approved to change a portion of the subject land from a mixed-use zone to a commercial zone. So why the amendment? Well, this is perhaps the important part, and it's the activity strategy that helps us here again. At section 5.6.3.6, it says the main reason for the change from mixed-use zone to commercial zone was to supplement and increase the amount of retail floor space with the potential for up to 1,090 square metres. Put simply, it was understood back then that Wattle Grove needs more retail floor space in the future. This was inserted as black and white text into the activity strategy. It was the reason the portion of land was changed from a mixed-use zone to a commercial zone. A funeral parlour, together with an office, does not provide any meaningful retail floor space. It is not consistent with the activity strategy nor the future of Wattle Grove. It is not the highest and best use for that commercial land. And with that being said, I would take it one step further. Allow me to reference clause 67.2 of Schedule 2 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015, the law that governs our decision making. In considering an application for development approval, the local government is to have due regard to the following matters. Now, clause 67.2 goes on to list a whole heap of matters, 27 in fact, and it includes things like the environmental impact of the proposal, the amount of traffic to be generated by the proposal, the history of the site, and so on. At clause 67.2M, we are to have regard to, and I quote, the compatibility of the development with its setting, including, firstly, the compatibility of the development with the desired future character of the setting. And secondly, the relationship of the development to development on adjoining land or on other land in the locality, including, but not limited to, the likely effect of the height, bulk, scale, orientation and appearance of the development. So effectively, these are the two questions we need to ask ourselves as part of tonight's decision-making process. Firstly, is the development compatible with the desired future character of its setting? Secondly, is this development compatible with other developments in the area? The short answer to those questions is no. And this is not based on my own opinion, but instead that response is informed by the activity strategy. That strategy explicitly acknowledges the need for the site to offer a commercial retail use and benefit that serves as an extension to the existing neighbourhood centre, which has supported that sense of community already and which forms part of the Hale Road frontage. Even further still, I would submit it is important we consider the mixed-use characterisation of both the land concerned and adjoining. Mixed-use zoning, as the name suggests, is intended to provide for a mix of different uses, including residential. The intention is unquestionably to facilitate a residential aspect to the area concerned. And fundamentally, we have to acknowledge that there is a genuine discomfort regarding the concept of death among our community, and understandably so. Death is the very permanent end to the human condition. I'm touched by the stories of the Seasons Funerals representatives this evening, but as an objective outsider, the fear, the grief, the anxiety around death, look, it may not be paralysing, but it is genuine discomfort. To accept that a trigger for that discomfort, a reminder of this discomfort, even to a small degree, would be fixed very distinctly in a residential setting where people live. I cannot accept that a funeral parlour is consistent with a residential use. On this basis, I also find a future residential developer looking to this area to increase housing stock will in no small amount be discouraged by virtue of the fact that in the locale we have situated a very large funeral parlour. Finally, I go back to clause 67.2 of Schedule 2. Remember, that's that list of the 27 matters that we have to have regard to. Clause 67.2n suggests that we ought to have regard to the amenity of the locality, including the environmental impacts of the development, but also the character of the locality and social impacts of the development. Councillors O'Donnell and Cannon have made a number of points with respect to amenity, and I broadly agree with their characterisation and assessment of that clause. I have nothing further to add at this stage. Suffice to say that I find a funeral parlour, particularly at this scale, is inconsistent with the character of the locality. I also find there would be significant social impact of the development to the locality. Both of these conclusions lead me to oppose the applicant's proposal on the basis in part of clause 64.2n. Having said all that, and in closing, let me remind everyone here tonight that this decision has not been easy. It's technical, it's complicated, it's required a lot of time and effort, and perhaps most of all, it's required me to distance myself from my representative function in my role as councillor. There inevitably will be a clear winner and a clear loser in this vote tonight. To the Seasons Funeral team, if it is the case that the vote doesn't go your way tonight, I ask that you please don't take it as a personal insult. You know, I, for one, have a lot of respect for your business, and I trust that I've demonstrated tonight there are genuine planning reasons by which to oppose your proposal this evening. It's important to me that the City of Kalamunda remains a fair and friendly place to live and do business. In the vein of the Seasons Funeral song, we respect each other even if we don't agree with each other. I hope that regardless of the outcome of tonight's vote, we can set aside our differences and keep that community spirit alive and well. Thank you.
Thank you.